Hello, everyone. In this lecture, we are introducing frequency distribution and graphs, fundamental concepts in statistics that help us understand how data is organized and presented. A frequency distribution provides a summary of how often different values occur in a data set, which is crucial in social work when analyzing client data or programming outcomes. By using graphs, we can visualize these distributions, making it easier to spot trends, outliers, or patterns in the data. For example, if we are evaluating the ages of clients in a social work program, a frequency distribution and graph can show us the age ranges that are most common, which may inform how we tailor services or interventions. Understanding frequency distributions also helps in summarizing large amounts of data into simple formats, which is important when communicating with stakeholders or decision makers in social work practice. The types of graphs we'll discuss in this lecture will assist in presenting this data in a clear and understandable way. Let's start with our learning objectives for this session. By the end of this video, you'll be able to discuss the different types of frequency distributions and their purposes. You'll be able to use these distributions to analyze data and uncover patterns and differentiate between various types of graphs and identify the best use for each of them. These skills will help you better understand and present data in social work practice. This table presents raw data, specifically clients' names and ages. Raw data is unprocessed information that hasn't been organized in a more usable form. In social work, raw data can include client demographics, service utilization, or outcomes from assessments. While raw data is important, it needs to be organized for analysis. We will later look at how this raw data can be transformed into frequency distributions, which will make it easier to understand patterns. For example, we can use this data to determine the most common age group among the clients, which can help in developing targeted programs or interventions. Raw data in its unprocessed form can often be overwhelming. By transforming this raw data into more readable formats, social workers can make informed decisions that benefit both clients and service delivery. This table shows the same data but organized into an array format, and array organizes the data to um, make it easier to read and analyze. This is a simple step that can be applied when managing client data in a social work setting. With this organized data, we can easily calculate and construct frequency distributions. Organizing data is essential in social work practice because it helps us make informed decisions about client needs, program effectiveness, and service gaps. We can identify important trends, such as whether a certain age group is overrepresented or underrepresented in our services. This process of organizing data can be applied across many areas of social work, from program evaluation to individual client assessments. An absolute frequency distribution table simply counts how often each attribute occurs. In the context of social work, this can be applied when analyzing characteristics such as age, gender, or types of services received by clients. For instance, you could track how many clients fall within specific age brackets and how many have assessed a particular service. This method allows social workers to gather insights into client demographics and service utilization patterns. With absolute frequency distributions, the data becomes easier to interpret, allowing for more effective decision making. Here's where we start to see the magic of frequency distributions. An absolute frequency distribution is just a way of counting how often something happens. For example, how many clients are 21 years old? How many are 30? We tally up how often each age appears in our data. This is really useful in social work because it helps us understand who we are working with. Maybe you're noticing that you have a lot more clients in one age group than the others. That can tell you something important about your services, like maybe you need more resources for that age group. It's all about using data to understand your clients better and tailor your work to meet their needs. Here's an example of an absolute frequency distribution table. To construct this, we simply count the number of times each attribute appears and place the totals next to each other, next to each attribute. For instance, if age 26 appears 3 times in a data set, the table will reflect that frequency as 3. These tables provide a straightforward way to summarize raw data. A cumulative frequency spread table can be created if data generated for a variable are at the ordinal or high level of measurement. Now, let's take a look at this one. Let's take a step further here. With a cumulative frequency distribution, we're adding things up as we go. So if we're looking at ages, we're just counting how many people are 21 or 26, but we're also adding up everyone younger than 26. For example, this gives us a running total and helps us see where the biggest groups fall. In social work, this can be really helpful if you want to know something like how many clients are younger than 49. This kind of data makes it easier to spot trends and helps us make decisions about where to focus our efforts. For example, if most of your clients are under 49, you might decide to tailor more services for that age range. Now let's talk about percentage frequency distributions. This is just like absolute frequency distributions, but instead of counting how many times something happens, we express it as a percentage. Why is this useful? Well, percentages make it easier to compare different groups, especially when you're dealing with data sets of different sizes. For example, we know that 30% of our clients are between 20 and 30 years old. It's easier to compare that with the percentage of clients in other age groups. Percentages help make data relatable so we can communicate our findings to others, like our colleagues or funders or policymakers who may not be as comfortable with raw numbers. This is a great way to summarize data and present it in a format that everyone can understand quickly. This table presents a percentage frequency distribution of clients' names and ages. The age column displays the clients' ages grouped together for those with the same value. The absolute frequency column shows how many clients fall into each age group. For instance, 3 clients are 26 years old and 4 clients are 31 years old. The absolute percentage column calculates each group's proportion of the total number of clients. For example, the 4 clients aged 31 make up 20% of the group. By converting frequencies into percentages, we can better compare categories and understand the relative distribution of ages among clients. Cumulative percentage distribution takes the idea of percentage distributions a step further. This is where we add up the percentages as we move through the data. Let's say we are looking at clients' ages again. If we want to know what percentage of clients are under 40, cumulative percentages make that easy. By adding the percentages as we go, we get a running total that can help us answer the questions like what percentage of our clients are younger than this or that age. This table presents a cumulative percentage distribution of clients' ages. It adds a layer to the absolute frequency and percentage by showing how the percentages accumulate across the data set. The cumulative percentage column indicates the total proportion of clients up to and including each age group. For example, by age 27, 40% of the clients are accounted for. By age 31, this increases to 60%. By age 39, all 100% of the clients are included. If we're looking for the age below which 50% of the clients fall, we can see it lies just above the age 27, but below age 31. This method is especially useful for identifying medians or percentile benchmarks in a data set. In this slide, we're looking at grouped cumulative percentage distributions, which group data into categories before calculating cumulative percentages. For example, instead of looking at individual ages, we can group ages into ranges like 20 to 29, 30 to 39, and so on. This is helpful when we have a lot of data and we want to simplify it into broader categories. Grouping can make it easier to see overall trends, such as which age group has the most clients. This method is especially useful in social work when we're dealing with large data sets, and it helps us make decisions about where to allocate resources or design programs to fit client needs. So, why do we care about frequency distributions? Properly constructed frequency distributions can be incredibly revealing. They help us see patterns in the data that we might miss otherwise. For example, if we know the cumulative percentage of clients who are under 40, we can use that information to create programs that better serve that demographic. Frequency distributions can also help us calculate percentile ranks, which show how an individual compares to the rest of the group. For example, if a client is in the 80th percentile for sessions attended, that means they have attended more sessions than 80% of other clients. This is valuable information for tracking progress or outcomes. Here we have a practical example of using cumulative percentages, this time with staff data. The table shows the cumulative percentage of staff days lost by month at an agency. This type of data is important for understanding trends in staff productivity or issues like absenteeism. By looking at the cumulative percentages, we can see how each month contributes to the total and spot any trends that might need addressing. For instance, if we see that a large number of staff days were lost in a particular month, that could indicate a seasonal trend or a need for policy changes to address absenteeism. This table shows group cumulative percentage distribution of scores for an experimental group. In research, we often want to group scores into ranges to see overall patterns. For example, here we can see how many participants scored within each range, like 60 to 69 or 70 to 79, and what percentage of the total they represent. This can help us understand the performance of the group as a whole and identify areas for further analysis, such as whether certain interventions had a greater impact on specific subgroups. This table gives us similar information for a control group. In research, comparing experimental group to a control group helps us see if an intervention made a difference. By looking at cumulative percentages, we can compare the performance of both groups across different score ranges. For example, we might see that the control group has fewer participants scoring in the higher ranges, which could suggest that intervention had a positive effect on the experimental group. This kind of comparison is key in social work research when evaluating the effectiveness of programs or services. Here we have hiring data broken down by gender. This type of analysis helps us understand gender representation in different classifications within an organization. By looking at both the number and percentage of males and females hired in each classification, we can identify potential gender disparities. This is especially important in social work when advocating for equity or diversity in hiring practices. Understanding these patterns can help agencies make informed decisions about recruitment and retention strategies to ensure fair representation. Here we introduce pie charts. and histograms. A pie chart is a circle divided into wedges, each representing the frequency of a different category. This is a great way to show the proportion of clients accessing different services. For example, histograms look like bar graphs, but are used for continuous data like age or income, and the bars touch each other. Histograms are useful for showing the distribution of a variable, such as the age distribution of clients. These visual tools make it easier to understand and communicate complex data, which is crucial in social work when reporting to funders or stakeholders. Yeah, here we see another pie chart, right? The pie charts, again, are created to look like pies, as circles divided into two or more wedges, each representing the frequency for a different characteristic or a variable. This pie chart shows the distribution of social workers at XYZ agency by their highest degree. So here we can see that 37.5% hold an MSW, making it the largest group. 27.5% have a BSW, and 25% have no degree. Only 10% hold a doctorate. This slide shows the basic structure of a graph used to depict frequencies for one variable. The x-axis, horizontal axis, represents the values or categories of the variable being measured. For example, this could be age groups, income ranges, or types of services. The y-axis, the vertical axis, shows the frequency or how often each value or category occurs. The point of origin where the x and y axis meet represents 0. Bar charts are used to represent categorical data. Each bar height reflects the frequency of the characteristic, and the bars do not touch, distinguishing them from a histogram. They're great for comparing frequencies and quickly identifying patterns in the data. Here we have a bar graph showing the different types of client problems at an agency. Each bar represents a different type of problem, such as environmental, psychological, or social problems, and the height of the bar shows how common each type is. This kind of graph is very useful for understanding what issues are most prevalent among clients. For example, if we see that social problems are the most common, we might decide to allocate more resources to address those issues. Bar graphs make it easy to compare different categories and see where the biggest needs lie, which is crucial in social work for effective service planning. This slide compares a bar graph and a line diagram, both of them showing marital status of active clients at XYZ agency. The bar graph highlights frequencies with distinct bars, making comparisons straightforward. The line diagram uses lines that run horizontally, parallel to the x-axis. Bar graphs and line diagrams can be used interchangeably. Here is an example of a histogram that shows the discharge status of a clients at an agency. Each bar represents the number of clients in different discharge categories, such as worse than at admission or greatly improved. Histograms are great for showing the frequency of outcomes, which helps us understand how well our program or service is working. For example, if most clients are showing improvement, we know that the program is likely effective. On the other hand, if many clients are being discharged without improvement, it might be a sign that the program needs to be adjusted. Histograms help us quickly identify those patterns. Histograms are similar to bar graphs, but the bars touch to show continuous data. The height of each bar reflects the frequency of values, and the order is based on the variable's range. This example displays age distribution, which with the highest frequency between 50 and 60. In this slide, we have another histogram, this time showing the ages of clients at an agency. The bars represent age ranges, and the height of each bar tells us how many clients fall into each range. This kind of visual is really helpful for understanding the demographics of your client population. For example, if most of your clients are between 20 and 30 years old, you might decide to offer more services aimed at this group. Histograms make it easy to see where the most of the data lies, which is crucial for making informed decisions in social work practice. Now, let's talk about frequency polygons. A frequency polygon is used to show the overall distribution of a variable within a data set. For example, if we plotted the test scores of our clients, a frequency polygon would show those scores are distributed across the population. The line continues at both ends to connect the lowest and highest points on the graph. In social work, we use frequency polygons to visualize trends or compare different groups. This can help us identify outliers or see age groups that might need more resources or attention. The visual curve allows us to see peaks, indicating where most of the data falls, and valleys, indicating less common data points. This frequency polygon shows the annual income of families receiving family counseling at an agency. Each point on the line represents how many families fall into a certain income range. And the line helps us see the overall distribution of income. This kind of graph is useful when we want to see the spread of a variable, such as income, across population. In social work, understanding the income distribution of our clients can help us tailor resources, advocate for resources, or design programs that meet the needs of lower income families. It can also highlight inequalities that might need to be addressed. Frequency polygons show the shape of data distribution but lose individual details. In contrast, stem and leaf plots preserve all individual values, making it possible to see both the spread and specific characteristics of the variable. Here we have a stem and leaf plot, which is a way of displaying data that allows us to see the actual values while also showing the distribution. In this case, it's showing the ages of residents at a care facility. Each stem represents a range of ages like 60, 70, and the leaves are the individual ages in that range. This is helpful when we want to see both the individual data points and the overall spread of data. It's a bit more detailed than a frequency polygon or histogram, but it's useful for getting a precise sense of the data while still visualizing the distribution. Let's end on a high note. Here is why data visualization is your secret weapon. Tables organize chaos. They turn raw data into actionable insights. Graphs grab attention. Bar charts, histograms, and pie charts make complex ideas simple. Frequency distributions and stem and leaf plots, they're your backstage passes to patterns and details. But here's the kicker. It's not just about the data. It's about the story you tell. The right table or graph can spark action, drive change, and make you unforgettable.